It's time for Let's Chat with Russtek, a podcast dedicated to helping entrepreneurs just like you. When starting out, entrepreneurs often feel they need to go it alone, and I'm here to tell you that's just not the case. Entrepreneurs have a lot of questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Nick Russell, and this is Let's Chat with Russtek. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat with Russtek. My name is Nick Russell, and today I want to talk to you about a lesson that I learned way back when I worked at the beer store. Now, as a lot of you may already know, I worked at a company here in Ontario called the Beer Store. Now, it started out as something part-time while I was in school, and it just kind of morphed into a career for me at the time. Starting out part-time, full-time, all the way up until management. Well, when I was part-time and just kind of getting into the permanent part-time and full-time, I'd worked for a manager at one of the busier stores that we had here in Windsor. And he's still a friend of mine to this day. And he was one of the hardest managers I ever had. But he was also one of the best managers I ever had, if not the best manager that I had working at the beer store. And the reason for that was he pushed me constantly to not only be a better person, but be better at the job, because he ultimately wanted to mold me into management, which he succeeded in that. I did move forward and get that management job. But he constantly pushed me. Now, we didn't always see eye to eye. And there were a lot of times that I hated him, not hated him, but hated how he pushed me because I didn't see it at the time. And the lesson that he taught me was always work smarter and not harder. Now, back then, I had no idea what that meant. I'd never heard that before. And as he was telling me this, I was so confused. I'm like, I come to work, I do my job, I go home. It's a hard job. Like, can't really work any smarter. No matter how I work, it's still gonna be a hard job. But he kind of showed me different things along the way that made the job a lot easier in the long run. As an example, we would get beer trucks delivered every week. Almost every day of the week, there was some sort of a truck. Sometimes there was two. And especially for the bigger brewers, the brewers that own the beer store, like Molson and Labatt, you would get 30 pallets on these trucks sometimes. So now you have to rearrange the back cooler area to make sure you can get 30 pallets off. Now, on top of that, if you don't know how the beer store works here in Ontario, it's a beer retail outlet for the brewers. The brewers, the major brewers, Molson and Labatt, Sleeman own it. Some of the craft beers have an association there, and they're kind of a very, very small part owner. Not exactly the best scenario for them, but they do finally have a say in a small percentage of the company. So in Ontario, all of our beer bottles are, for the most part, our beer bottles are reusable. So if you get a Labatt Blue or Molson Canadian or Sleeman Draft, these bottles are all reusable. So when you're finished, when you buy that case, you pay 10 cents per bottle as a deposit. When you bring that back, you get your deposit back. We sort them, when I was there, we sorted them, shipped them back to the brewers. So you can just imagine the amount of space that all those empties took up. So now when you have these big trucks, you have to make sure you have enough space to bring these in, enough space in the cooler to take the beer off the pallets, put it in the cooler, and get it ready to sell to customers. And my manager at the time kind of really taught me how to not look at what's going to happen later that day or tomorrow, or even later that week. He taught me to look a couple weeks ahead and a month ahead to kind of see what was going to happen. If I worked with him on a Monday and he knew I was by myself the next Sunday with a couple part-timers, he had taught me how to plan my whole week as I went through each day to make sure when I was the one in charge on Sunday, things ran smoothly for me. And even on a Saturday, I would prep myself to make sure Sunday went smoothly because I was thinking ahead. I was working a lot smarter and not working harder. Now, the cool thing is that could translate to what I do here and what you guys do there as well in your jobs. Now, I want to focus on just the social media side of things. Now, one of the things that I hear quite often in conversations I have with business owners, especially business owners that don't have a social media manager or a marketing team in house, or even have a company that they use like what we do, and that's perfectly okay. Not everybody has the money to afford that, but if you're doing your own social media, you obviously wear a lot of different hats in your business, and you have to make sure you're very organized and plan ahead to make sure things run smoothly. Now, one of the things when it comes to social media, a lot of people aren't as consistent as they should be. Now, being consistent is absolutely key because social media and marketing your business is actually one of the most simple things there is. It's not about algorithms and making sure you're reaching certain targets. That all plays a factor, yes. But when you break everything down, it's about building relationships. It's about connecting with your audience and building that relationship, showing them who you are so they can really relate with you and want to buy your product or your service. Now, when you break it all down, if you're not consistent on social media, you're not really building that relationship. You're not keeping up with that. So think about it having one of your close friends. You could text and talk every day and go over everything that happened that day, or you and your partner. You could go out for dinners and drinks and whatever. And then slowly you stop talking to them. It goes from every day to every other day to once a week to a couple times a month. You start to grow apart. The same thing happens with your social media. If you're not consistent with your post, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind almost. If if there's another company in your part of your competition and they're consistent and you're not, your audience is going to start to see these posts and not yours. Okay. So, one of the really, really cool tools that we use, well, two of them actually, is we use tools to schedule, to create our content, schedule that content out. Now, that's working a lot smarter because, like I said, we wear a lot of hats and we're really busy in our day to day lives and at the office or in the shop or wherever we're at. So, if you get busy, you may forget to post that day. You may forget to put your story up, your post out. You may forget to engage with your audience. And that's what you don't want. So, using a content calendar, sitting down on a Monday, a Tuesday, whatever works best for you to schedule your content out for the next week, 2 weeks, even a month in advance is going to be critical. So, using a tool like a content calendar, you can sit down, create all of the content for however long you want. And then you could take all that work that you just did, all that content you created in a spreadsheet. I use a spreadsheet. You can use, there are other programs out there, but you can take that content calendar, copy and paste that with all the images that and videos and everything you have into a scheduler. Now, there's so many different schedulers out there, but like Facebook has Creator Studio, there's TweetDeck for Twitter, there's Hootsuite. There's so many of them. Now, some of them are free, some of them aren't. Creator Studio is a free platform, TweetDeck's a free platform, but you're very limited what you can do. Now, I went to a program called Loomly, Loomy, or Loomly, Loomly. Now, this program allows me to schedule content on every single platform that's out there, except for TikTok. Not yet. I know they're working on it, but you can schedule for every platform. But the biggest thing is you can schedule stories to your Instagram account through Loomly. And that's what I really loved about that. So what I can do is I can sit down, create all of my content, schedule it all out, and be done with that side of things for the next week, next month, however long that I want. Now, that's not to say schedule that out, forget about it until next week, and then come back and create more content. Creating content is just a small piece of engaging and growing and building those relationships. That all comes down to actually connecting and chatting and having that conversation with them. So you want to create content that's engaging, so your audience will comment on there. And then you want to go out and reply to those comments. But you also want to go to their content as well and comment on their stuff. So if I see, I'll use one of we talked about the beer store and beer a little bit. I'll talk to one of my second office, I guess you can call it, Chapter 2 Brewery here in Windsor. Now, I could go and they could post a picture of Danger Bird, their IPA, and or wings on a Wednesday. They have their wing deal. And I can comment on there. Oh, those wings look perfect. I'm going to bring my laptop and I'll have some wings for lunch while I work. Or, well, take a break, have the wings, wash my hands, then work. But make it something personal and relating with what they're posting. Now, when you're going on engaging, the last thing you want to do is use a bot service. There are so many different bot services out there, and you don't want to take follow a generic hashtag and put a generic comment out, because people are just going to look at that, like it, and move on. They're not going to have that conversation. If you make it geared towards that post specifically, that's where that conversation grows, and that's how relationships get built. So that is one really cool way that you can work smarter and not harder, is creating your content ahead of time and scheduling that out. Now, speaking of that content calendar and so many other tools that we've talked about in the last month, if you don't know already, I've created a whole resource sheet, a whole PDF that has all the resources and tools that I use to work smarter and not harder, and it helps me grow my company every single day. So those resources are yours. That PDF is yours for free. Some of the resources are free, some of them are not, but it shows you what I use to make my day-to-day life so much easier and helps me work smarter and not harder. So if you head to info.rustekmedia.com/tools, that's yours absolutely free. I'll also have it in the description of the podcast and of this YouTube video here for you to download, and it's all yours. So hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully you got a little bit out of it today, and I can't wait to chat with you again next week. Hey everybody, hold up just one quick second. Now, as entrepreneurs, a lot of us struggle to find the right tools and the right resources that fit our business and help us grow. Now, over the past 4 years, I've tried so many different tools, so many different resources and ways to grow my business. And it wasn't until just recently, in the last year, that I found a really good system of tools that have helped me grow continually month after month after month. And I don't want you to go through that same pain and same process that I went through. So that's why I have this resource guide for you absolutely free. So if you head to info.rustekmedia.com/tools, this resource guide is yours completely free. All you have to do is put your email in and I will send you the resource guide right away. So again, if you head to info.rustekmedia.com/tools, that resource guide is all yours.